Your voice matters. Your vote matters. And your story matters. This is ERIKA SUGARMON, Unfiltered. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome back to ERIKA SUGARMON, Unfiltered. And today we have a special guest. You know, sometimes we think about the flashy jobs like the mayor, city council, county commissioners, but do we ever think about judges? Well, that's the best place to really focus on because that's where the rubber meets the road. And today I have a very special guest. Oh my goodness. You know how we're always asking, well, what high school did you go to? Well, this judge went to Frayser High School, and she didn't stop there. She went on and got her master's in psychology, an MBA, a law degree. Nope. And she didn't stop there. She even received her doctorate in education. She is the definition of Memphis made. I am so proud to introduce to you all Judge Marcy Ingram. Good evening, Your Honor. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing well, Commissioner. How are you today?
Wonderful. Can you take us back? What really motivated you to get one degree after another degree? What inspired you?
Well, growing up, I remember watching Perry Mason with my grandmother
Mhm.
and, of course, America's favorite mom, Claire Huxtable. So I knew I wanted to be a lawyer one day. And while I was at school, my favorite subject was psychology. So I
Mm.
said, I like to help people. So that's a great field to go into as well. So in my high school yearbook, I wrote down when I grew up, I was going to be either a psychologist or a lawyer. Who knew I would end up doing both? So I went to undergraduate. I studied psychology. Then from there, I got a master's in education, but my focus was mental health counseling. And then
Mm.
from there, I did my doctorate degree in education. And 2 weeks after my graduation from my doctorate degree, I was sitting in a law school classroom and they were saying, look to the left, look to the right. Next semester, somebody won't be here. And I'm like, what am I
What?
doing? I just finished my doctorate degree. But I've always had a passion to help people solve their problems. I did do psychology for several years before I went to law school. And then once I did law school, I thought that was it. No more degrees for me, but I ended up getting an MBA.
Wow. And so I want to just take everybody back because when I became a county commissioner, you were the attorney, you will, for the commissioners. And we have varying personalities, and you get along with everybody. So I was wondering, did that your background in counseling and psychology, did that help you work with us? Because we're kind
Yes.
of a wild bunch.
Yes, I think it helps with just understanding people and understanding different emotions. So, yes, most definitely having a degree in psychology. You know, as a lawyer, it's not like medical school. You have to major in biology in order to go to medical school. Being a lawyer, you can major in anything and then go to law school. But I think
Wow.
most definitely having that psychology degree helps me to understand people and working with different personalities and how to respond to those larger personalities.
Your Honor, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. You preside over General Sessions Civil Court Division 2. Just tell us about, the people that you that come before your court and some of the issues they're dealing with in general. And then how does that counseling come to play or your background come to play in your new role as a judge?
General Sessions Civil, our jurisdiction is limited to $25,000. So we're kind of a people court of sort because most of our cases, people are representing themselves. Like I said, the jurisdiction is $25,000 and less. I hear eviction cases, breach of contract disputes. Somebody hired someone to fix the roof on their house and they didn't do a good job, or you took your car to a repair shop and the mechanic still has your car 6 months later and they told you it was only going to take 3 days. I hear a lot of debt collection cases, whether it's from bail bondsmen or credit card companies or car companies, even medical bills, lots and lots of those cases. And then we rotate hearing mental health, emergency mental health commitment hearings. Say a
Mhm.
family member is concerned, their family member is wandering around the house or wandering the streets and, talking to themselves, and they're concerned that that person may hurt themselves or hurt someone else.
Right.
So they reach out to the crisis intervention team, and the crisis intervention team comes and picks them up and takes them to a mental health facility to be evaluated. Well, that requires a judge to sign off on that if that person did not voluntarily do that. So those are the types of cases that I hear and dealing with those types of issues.
And also, you do a lot of work or outside. I understand you did some work with the Boys and Girls Club, reading in schools. Tell us about your community service aspect.
Oh, yes. I love doing that. I love being a mentor, going around to the different schools on career day, telling people why they should want to be a lawyer. One of my favorite things I've done since I've been a judge with the junior high school, middle school students is when I go to speak, they think I'm going to give them a whole big speech. And I'm like, no, you're going to play judge and jury today.
Oh,
So
wow.
I divide them up into groups and allow a certain segment to sit as the jury. I divide them up into attorneys who's going to prosecute the case, who's going to
Mm.
defend the case. I have a bailiff. I have a courtroom clerk, and actually let them do a mock trial so they can see it. I give them real cases that I've tried in court and see if they come up with the same decision that I did. And then we
Hmm.
go through and we break it down and talk. But the one of the favorite ones has been a car accident where someone had a dash cam and someone made a left turn in front of them. So I let them sit as judge and jury in that case to see if they reached the same decision that I did.
And so, the outcomes of the this mock trial, is it similar to your decision, or is it totally different, or what?
The last two that I had, they were both similar to my position. I found that the burden of proof is in the law has to be a preponderance of the evidence by 51%, that is more likely or not that the defendant is guilty, that they caused the accident or caused the injury to the person. And in that case, we both found that they were both equally responsible because the guy was speeding and the car made a left turn in front of him. So they actually came up with the same decision that I did. So that meant nobody was successful because they both were equally responsible. So they had to pay to get their own damages fixed to their cars. So it was just amazing to see that at that age that, working in a group and breaking it down. And, I tried to give them a little bit of, what the law is, what the plaintiff, had to
Mhm.
show to me that it couldn't be just 50-50. They had to go just a little bit above. And so when breaking it down to watch them use all of their skills to come up with the same decision.
That is wonderful. Yes. And you probably inspired many to go into law, for example.
Yes, yes, I had them come up several students come up to me afterwards, after the mock trial to say, "Well, what do I need to do to major in law school? I think I may be pretty." I mean, and the teachers were so surprised because they were like, "This kid is pretty quiet in class, and here they are now, engaging in debate."
Right. And sometimes students just need to see, somebody that's in a role that they can imagine or, of the possibilities. I think that's
Right.
wonderful. Let me ask you this. So if someone wanted to invite you to their classroom, who would they contact, or is your plate full now?
No, they can reach out to me, and I'll try to get them on schedule. Usually Fridays are pretty good days for me, Friday afternoon. So
Okay.
I'll be glad to come out and speak. I got a few engagements coming up, but I'll try to work them in.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let me ask you this real quickly because, I also have like a civics like 101 real quickly. And we've already talked about the three branches of government, the chief executive, the mayor, the legislative, the commissioners,
Hmm.
and judicial branch. A lot of people don't understand how that works. For example, local judges are elected, but what happens, and can you tell the people that are watching if there's a vacancy? And I know we went through this, but just kind of explain the process with people that are listening about the process. If there's a vacancy, either as well as the commission, we're dealing with that right now. There's a vacancy on the commission. Just can you talk to the audience and tell them what does that process look like?
Well, it's based on the Tennessee Constitution, and so it depends on what position it is. If it's a state judge vacancy, then the governor would make that appointment to fill the vacancy until the next general election. If it's a local judge, meaning a Shelby County judge, then the county commission will make that appointment to fill the vacancy. Vice versa, if it's a municipal judge, like in the city of Memphis, then the city council will make the decision to fill that vacancy. And that is all guided by what the Tennessee Constitution says for how vacancies are filled in office.
And right now, as you know, we have a vacancy on the commission, and we're going to be going through that process as far as filling that position until there's an election. Let me ask you something real quickly about, for example, if somebody wants to, let's say, become a judge one day. So, what would you advise somebody who really has aspiration to go to the legal system, to be an attorney or a judge? What advice would you give them as far as you stated a minute ago, they could major in anything, but what
Yes.
advice would you give young people?
I would give them the advice to I think it would have helped if I would have majored more either in English or history. It's a lot of reading and things that happened in the past. And even as a lawyer, what we call legal precedent, going back to look at what cases have already been resolved by the courts. So I think you have to kind of like history, which I am a history buff. I like history. I love to read, and writing is important. You have to be a good writer when you are a lawyer. So I think those things, maybe not even necessarily have to major in them, but at least minor in them and take some classes to help you with that structuring and getting that legal framework together. And also helps you with studying for the LSAT, the test that you have to take in order to go to law school, and all of the logical thinking and logical games. And they, of course, there may be four answers, but in two of them are the right answer, but one is the best answer out of the two. So being able to do that logical thinking, that deduction, reasoning, I think majoring in those types of things help.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I took the LSAT. I was like, this is not for me. I never finished it. I started it, it's like twice. I was,
It's
mm-mm.
very challenging, but it's worth it. It is worth it. I mean, as you said, I had a career before I went to law school, majoring in psychology and education. I did that. I taught from preschool to special need kids. I taught parenting classes before I became a parent. That went over well. You trying to tell parents what to do and you don't have kids yourself. But again, a psychology degree came into, it's like you are the expert, you are the boss of your own kids. I'm just the expert on the education material. And I think that helped just understanding that, just the psychology of not trying to be judgmental of people, but actually trying to help them. I think that helps in the classroom as well as the courtroom. Although
Right.
being a judge, I do pass judgment. But
Well,
on the law, not the individual person.
and one more thing, okay, because in you hear things, for example, the rule of law. And so my students are asking, what is the rule of law? So can you explain to the audience what is the rule of law?
It depends on which courtroom you're in. There's law and then there's equity. So the General Sessions Court, we're kind of a hybrid. We're kind of both. The rule of law is what's in the books, what has already happened, and equity is just more so of what's fair, what's justice. We know what the law says. We know what the law book says, but is that really fair? And so that's when the equity comes in. So that's a balance. Like I had a case regarding someone's bank account being frozen because their child was also on their bank account, and their child had a judgment entered against them. And so the winning party, the successful party, came and seized the assets from that bank account. And then the mother was like, wait, I didn't have anything to do with that. So it's like legally, yes, that child's name, this was an adult child, name was on that bank account. So yes, legally, that was fair for the plaintiff to come when they looked at assets to come and do that. But now, was that fair that the mother, just because she put her son's name on her bank account because just in case something happened to her, she wanted him to be able to have access, to her financial records. And so it's like it just came down to a matter of fairness. It's like, yeah, legally you could do that, but is it fair when the mother didn't have anything to do with it? So I did kind of the King Midas thing of splitting the baby and say, okay, well, I'm going to say that they were joint owners of that account, and so the person that was the prevailing party could get half of the money, but not all of the money. So that was both parties probably left unhappy, but just meeting things in the medium, in the middle of putting law and equity together to provide justice.
Well, let me ask you this real quickly. And so you have the perfect temperament to be a judge, Your Honor. And so, having said that, I was just wondering, was there any time where you just, felt like, oh my goodness, I can't do this? Or was there a case that you were like, oh my gosh, very heart wrenching or things of that nature? Because you're dealing with people who are facing evictions that you stated or lawsuits. Was there any particular case where it just kind of like tore at you?
Yeah, I think the eviction cases are pretty, the most difficult because I mean, even though we're talking about jurisdiction cases of 25,000 or less, we're talking about life-changing events. I mean, you come in this courtroom and you can leave and you don't have housing anymore. And so that's happened with, several people, several parents, that, they are emotional, they are crying. It's like, where am I going to go? I have 5 kids and now I'm being evicted. We have a lot of that. You are a school teacher. You know that we have, very transient people or people that have to live in their car because they don't have anywhere to go. So that is, very heartbreaking. But again, as the judge, I have to, enforce the law.
Thank you so much for joining me. And do you have any
Absolutely.
parting words for or advice that you like to put out in the atmosphere?
Now I'm gonna quote Johnny Crockett and just say preparation, preparation, preparation. Always be prepared for you never know what's gonna happen, what life's gonna bring you. So always have a plan B.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
So
you.
now I'm going to turn to my civics lesson. Recently, there was a lot of noise in Shelby County. People were angry. They want to replace the school board early. In other words, shorten their term of office. They wanted a recall. They wanted immediate action. But a judge stepped in and said no. Why? Because of the rule of law. Judges are the referees in a basketball game. You might hate the call, but if we ignore the referee, the game turns into a brawl. So, words of wisdom, we're all under the rule of law, and let's support democracy. Thank you so much.